Hello and welcome back. Today we're gonna hack Shocker on Hack the Box, which is vulnerable to the Shellshock vulnerability, just like the one that you've probably seen on the second episode of the first season of Mr. Robot. And by the end of the video, we'll hack it just like Elliot did. So, go to Machines, then Retired, then Shocker, then click on Spawn, connect to the Hack the Box VPN network, and here's our IP. The very first thing, like always, sudo nmap t5-p- on all ports to see which ones are open. It'll be fast. It sounds spicy. It is. This, I repeat, is a very efficient way to go about it, because the first thing we do, we check which ports are open out of all of them. 65,535 with a timing template of 5, so it'll be very fast. And once we see which ones are open, we're gonna hit it with an SV for banner grabbing, SC for the nmap default scripts, -O to see what operating system we have. Well, we know it's Linux, but by targeting only the open ports. Yeah, -ON saves the nmap output to a file, to a simple file. You can also save it to XML. Why? Well, there's some software that can actually read that. Software like, for example, CMS. Many times you will find nmap integrated within other software suites. And there are some nmap formats that are better read in the other formats that you have with nmap. What do we have? Normal, XML, script kiddie, and greppable format. I always use N for normal. It's just like what you will see when doing an nmap scan, a normal nmap scan. A normal nmap scan output. There's a lot we gotta talk about in this video, and waiting for nmap scans to end is always a pain. Yes, it is. You always have to save things to file, because as days go by, the amount of information is going to pile up pretty quickly, especially if the attack surface is very wide. There's only so much information that you can retain by memory. As long as it's one machine, yeah, you can do that. But if you're trying to save as much time as possible when you're doing the OSCP penetration testing labs, you will have to keep everything tidy and organized in folders. When I did this earlier, it wasn't this slow. It's probably at this time of the night that scans are so slow. This happened to the other day. I've been live for 10 minutes now. It's, yeah, more than half the time waiting for the scan to end. Looks like there are more people interested in private lessons that they're interested in the courses themselves, for some reason. I mean, courses are highly edited, and there's absolutely everything in there. I don't know why. Well, in my early 30s, in my early 20s, I actually preferred private lessons, but after a while, I just look things up, and that's it. Probably having private teachers is something that you can do without as you grow older. Yeah, I am, Dobby. Kind of known. But the offer, I've exceeded with the offer. I've started publishing too many videos, and I think I reached the cap with the Italian market. So that's why I moved on to the rest of the world. Like an emperor. Exactly. David Bombal, just you wait. I'm coming for you. Really. One of the best in Europe. Well, I don't know about the others. Well, there are many that don't have. There are many great people, great penetration testers that maybe just don't have a YouTube channel. I really should be focusing on vulnerable machines because scans aren't this low when you perform them locally. This is just a waste of time, but you know, Hack the Box being one of the most well-known CTF platforms in the world, it is what it is. All right, it looks like it found something. It was very slow, but in the end, it managed to scan 2 ports. Now that we know, yeah, this is faster usually. Now that we know what the ports are, what the open ports are, we can banner grab them, launch the default nmap scripts, check which operating system is installed, and then check what's actually there on port 80 and 2222. This should be fairly quicker. Let's pray to God it is. So we have port 80, which is an HTTP server, just like always. It's being served with Apache HTTPD 2.4. Nothing much there. And then we also have SSH, which is open on a non-standard port, which is 2222, which would allow us to get a very stable shell, a secure shell, if we manage to find the username and the password for one of the users that can access the server via SSH. But we found port 80, so let's try and visit that. Just a web page, Control U. Doesn't seem like there's much here. So, looks like we're stuck, right? Now, usually when you visit a web page, you will find hyperlinks on a page that allow you to visit the various web pages, right? In this case, also the Burp Suite performs this automatically with the spider, with a crawler. Now, when we don't know what's actually in there on the server, we need to perform some tests, like try out admin, not found, or administrator, not found, or for example, other applications, other CMS applications like WordPress or Joomla. No response received from the server. Or we could use a penetration testing technique in active information gathering, which is called dir busting, directory busting. So softwares dedicated to directory busting, to dir busting, actually try thousands upon thousands of actual folders on the web server and files. Now, one of the easiest to use is probably dir buster. What you have to do is set the target URL with http:// then select a word list that contains those words. You will find the one that's often successful on Hack the Box, which is in user share dir busting. Nope. It's in user share word list there, and then in dir buster, and then directory list lowercase 2.3 medium. Then we want to just brute force the directories. Do not be recursive, because if it finds a directory, it will then try all of the words in this word list again. And there are a lot of them in here. Want me to show you? User, share word list, dear pastor. Vim, directory, list, 2.3, medium, set and G. It's about 250,000, 220K. Well, these are all of the words that their buster will be trying against the server automatically. So do not be recursive. We're only interested in the directories, but then we also brute force the files later on, as you'll see. Start it. Yeah, the sec list from Daniel Miesler is also a very good collection of word lists. Yeah, you can install that with sudo apt install sec lists. And it's already found a couple of directories. Now we're just interested in this and this too, so we'll just stop the debussing. And let's see, it's a 403, which means forbidden. We will not be able to see what the contents are because it's been configured, because the server has been configured correctly. Usually CGI bin, they serve binaries. CGI stands for Common Gateway Interface for Binaries. So since we're on an Apache server, we might have under this folder PHP files or Perl files or Python files or text files or SH files, which is the extension for shell scripts. So we get back to our scan and we tell it to start with CGI bin to brute force files too, with extensions PHP, PL, PY, SH, and TXT. Why not? Try it again. And as you can see, it's already found something. It's actually the only thing that we'll be interested in. Usually these operations require much more time and deliberation, but I don't want to bore you to death. Just keep in mind that to hack these machines, well, it usually takes a while. CGI-bin user sh. User sh. And what we see here, let's Control U. It's the very same thing, nothing changes. We see just an uptime test script. Now, and we see that it's actually something that's been executed in a bash environment, because this is the exact result that you will see by typing in uptime here. So it's basically the same. So what can we deduct from this? That we're on the Apache server and bash is somehow involved via CGI. So what you will do in this case, you will look for remote command execution Apache and bash CGI and see what you find to perform some vulnerability assessment of the thing. And the very first thing that comes out is exactly the exploit that you will have to try, and it's also the correct one. Now, it's also available in Metasploit, which is even easier. So we'll do this very quickly. Then we'll perform the privilege escalation just as fast, and then we'll move to manual exploitation of the same. So Let's save the remote host IP. Launch the MSF console program. 200. Status OK. Search. Type exploit. Shellshock. It's this one. I mean, it's in the title. Apache, a module, CGI, bash. Apache, mode underscore CGI, bash environment variable, code injection. That's exactly what we're interested in. Now the ID is 1. Use 1. Let's take a look at the options. This is going to be a little bit different. So set our host, Ctrl+Shift+V, and that's the remote host. Let's also set the local host, which is our tunnel IP. Now there's another thing that we have to set, which is the path to the CGI script. Now, files ending with .sh are shell scripts or bash scripts. So we set also the target URI. Remember that Metasploit isn't case sensitive, so doesn't matter. CGI bin user.sh, right? And now we just type in run or exploit. And we're in. The username for the currently logged in user that the privilege that we got is shellish. So we get into a shell, which isn't very stable. I mean, it's very bare bones. So do we have Python? Nope, we don't. Do we have Python 3? Yes, we do. So Python 3, we set up a more stable shell with import pty spawn bin bash, and there you go. Yeah, not very stable. But now the first thing that you have to type is sudo -l to see what Shelly can actually do. And we see that Shelly may run the following commands on Shocker, which is Perl, which means that via Perl we can execute anything on the machine as root. We're not root right now, but to perform privilege escalation on this machine, well, you have to do a little bit of research to understand how to do this. But you execute system commands from the command line using Perl via the E, which stands for execute, obviously, and then using exec. We'll just execute a bin bash command. And we're root. Of course, a root flag is under root. We can access basically everything. We've just spawned the machine, but it isn't over yet. We still have to hack it like Elliot would have hacked it. And if you remember from the Mr. Robot episode, this is the way that Elliot hacked Evil Corp and got the results of the etc passwd contents from a server. He hacked it via Wget. So what we're gonna do, we're gonna first hack it manually via the burp suite, then we're gonna save it as a curl command, and then we're gonna convert it to Wget so that we'll see just how correct the exploit was in the Mr. Robot episode. So I think we can close this up, open up the burp suite. If you still haven't set it up, I have other videos on the channel where I teach you just how to do that. To see exactly how the exploit works, you can search for it with search exploit and you'll find this one. It's the one that we're interested in. Apache mod_CGI, Shellshock remote command injection, and then you save it with -m. Already did this. Payload. There it is. This is the exact payload that you'll have to insert. Now, this is a reverse shell. Looky here, reverse. And this instead is a bind shell. Now, what we want to do, we want to just get the contents of the etc passwd file. First, historically, the payload that's vulnerable to this, I mean the header that's vulnerable to this payload is the user agent one. Copy this, then intercept the page with the burp suite, send it to the repeater so that we can try different things against it. Cooked. Yeah. Send and we get the normal response. Now the header that's vulnerable to this is the user agent one. We try modifying it, nothing changes. We try copying the exploit, I mean the payload in, and then instead of having bin bash, we just insert cat etc passwd and see what happens. And we get a 500 internal server error, which is interesting. Just like Adam's measure would say, interesting, right? And then you will have to, you know, try different things out until you get to something interesting. Well, until you get it to work. Now, what does this actually do? Well, this just defines a function in bash that does absolutely nothing. Right? And how would you come to the conclusion that this payload will be useful to actually hack it? Well, you would futz the application like crazy. I mean, the guy that discovered this probably spent a good couple of weeks trying different payloads with different encodings and see what worked. Also because if you want this to work truly, you also have to put in a couple of new lines, which isn't working right now because you also have to put another couple of new lines here too. But do you see how the response changes whenever we switch things up a little bit? When you send a request and the response is different, each time you try something different, there's very likely something vulnerable. Keep this in mind. Try it again. Still nothing. Let's try closing this. And now we get a 400 bet request. Now, what was the exact payload that actually worked? Well, we could try. We could spend another couple of hours on this, but I have the winning one. Okay. You actually have to type in bin bash to get into the bash environment again, and then with C actually execute If the C option is present, then commands are read from the first non-option argument. Okay. So it's bin bash C. And it still doesn't work, but if you set another of new lines, it actually does. Hacking is so romantic. Yeah, isn't it, Dabe? And now, if we wanted to hack this like Elliot would have, we can actually copy the request not to a file, but to curl. Copy as curl command, bash. Right? Let's do a curl convert curl command to Wget, because we want to be as close to the Mr. Robot episode. Convert curl commands to Wget, and then paste it in, copy it to clipboard. Then we can Ctrl-Shift-V the thing, and we get the very same result, just like what Elliot did, right? Now, wget sh. Now I think that we don't need this because we already have it here. Get method, well, it's already a get method. Now this we need certainly. I don't think we need the content length because it will be calculated automatically. Nor do we need this header. We need this. We can type it like this. We don't want it quiet. We can also put it on a single line. The backslashes are used to separate a single command on multiple lines. Body data, I don't think this is necessary. Now there are dollar symbols which will need to be escaped. So let's try just copying and pasting it. There's body data, you say. Well, we don't need body data, it's a GET request, right? We copy this. And we get the exact same result as earlier. Right, so we exploited the Shellshock vulnerability in just one line, which is very cool. Let's compare it to the Elliot's one. Wget-mu, I guess it's legitimate, but it doesn't define the user agent header, which is actually the vulnerable one. It defines a content type with text plain, which is completely unnecessary. Then the two echoes. Now these are square brackets. These are not, well, might work, I guess. Does it? Nope. It doesn't. Well, you might say, well, it could be a different exploit, but well, you might say, well, probably, well, maybe it's not a Shellshock vulnerability, but if you look for Mr. Robot Shellshock, you'll get to this attack specifically. There are the two echoes there. There's something that resembles the Shellshock payload. So, I mean, this was a Shellshock payload, but it is not very faithful to the actual attack. But anyway, we did it. We did the correct one, right? Also, Elliot saved it to file, but we actually printed it to the terminal, which is probably better. Now you could also get a connection to a machine just like we did with Meterpreter, but I think we'll be doing this for many more machines in the future, so I guess we'll just stop here for this video. Now until the end of the month there will be a special discount, I mean December 2025, on all of the courses and the InfoSec Bundle. So check it out, the link is in the description. These are 5 courses that will take you from the very beginning, almost the very beginning, but if you have any issues, just type a comment, hop on Twitch and ask questions, I'm available. These courses will take you from the very beginning up to being able to perform a professional penetration test. So thanks for watching the video. Subscribe to the YouTube channel if you haven't already. Hop on Twitch if you want to interact live, and Merry Christmas and Happy New Year, I guess. I'll see you next year. Thanks again for watching. Hack the planet. Ciao. Da Adriano. Bye.